This YC founder was denied 3 times before finally getting in. Here's what they changed in their interview that made the biggest difference.
We didn't prepare. We didn't make any notes because everything was in our head, because we'd done so much of homework, we'd done so much of traction, we'd done so much of product building that we didn't need to prepare.
That's Sarthak, the founder of Invoid, an Indian-based startup that was eventually acquired. They went through Y Combinator in the winter batch of 2021. What do you think was the biggest thing that convinced them to say yes the 4th time?
I think persistence. They would have seen our journey very clearly on there. If they had a chart or something, or like a graph, they'd be able to see that. And second was, we were with
persistence. That made sense to me, but the second one was the most insightful. This interview is about going under the hood of how an Indian-based startup gets denied 3 times, and then on the 4th time makes the difference. They actually did a virtual interview on the 4th time and got in. Stay to the end, because we actually go over a side project that he's working on nights and weekends that had incredible traction so far. They've literally got over 4,000 likes on their LinkedIn post. I'm Adam O'Donnell. This is the Founder Initiative. Boom.
The company that I founded was called Invoid, and we went to Y Combinator in the winter 21 batch. And this was around automating KYC, automating regulatory checks and compliances, and ease up the customer onboarding across 40 plus enterprises, which included banks, NBFCs, gaming companies in India, matrimonial platforms, crypto exchanges, etc. There were a lot of different industries where we were giving a product. We went to do million onboardings in a month, more than that in a couple of months. And went to YC with traction, but that wasn't the best part of it. The best part was we failed a lot while applying to Y Combinator. Like, we got rejected. So while I applied for Y Combinator when we were starting our journey at Invoid, we got rejected because we weren't able to build that conviction around the market. We thought we'd gotten there, but YC thought we didn't, which was actually true, right? We were not able to, we just built our MVP. We were not able to crack the market, get paying customers. There were just free pilots that we were doing. And that was when the market didn't seem very convincing. And next, the second.
So wait, just so I get that. So you're saying you applied, was it like a year previously that you applied and you got denied?
There must be 2 to 3 batches ago. So that would be like 1.5 years in total. Yeah. So that was YC thought I was two people trying to build something. Market does not exist. And so that we weren't really convincing to them.
And this was about 2020, maybe, because you got into 2021.
Yeah, that would be 2019. So we got into 2020 end. So that would be 2019, the summer batch. So that's when we were applying. And then.
And how much traction did you have at the time?
We were doing free pilots. We didn't have paying customers at all. So the idea didn't exist. Like, the problem statement for YC didn't exist because we couldn't also explain it, because it was a very nascent thing. And there are not a lot of companies in the B2B space in India which are building for India, that there was no playbook per se. Obviously, Razorpay was one that was building in this space, but none other than that. So after that, we applied for the second time and got the interviews the second time and still didn't make it. So the second time as well.
Wait, the second time? Okay, sorry. I thought you said you did.
We didn't make it. This time, the problem statement was clear. We had traction, but then the market size, again, we fumbled at the point where we couldn't tell how big the market size is for the KYC industry, automating KYC industry in India. And plus, the kind of customers that we had were very early stage startups and not mid stage or highly funded or enterprises. So that was a very low key PMF that we had reached, which is not convincing that it's a big enough market to invest in. Come join Y Combinator.
So how much revenue did you have at that point?
You would have somewhere around monthly, like $1,000 to $2,000. That's that.
Got it. So the first time you applied, you had pretty much zero?
Yeah, pretty much zero. We were just starting to make revenue, having paid pilots to say. So first one was free pilots. The problem statement existed in our heads, but not on paper. We weren't able to convince YC. Then second was, the problem statement was, problem statement exists, but is there a market? Are you going to break it? Are you going to make something? Yeah, we had pilots, but they weren't very big customers, or we weren't able to convince like we were the right people and the market was right and the timing was right. And the third time, I think we didn't apply because we thought the outcome is the same. We haven't done really significant incremental things. And the fourth time was when we'd gotten, that was our interview, and it was a complete remote interview. And this time we didn't prepare at all. So In the past two times, we would have done mock interviews with people around us. We would have done mock interviews amongst each other, prepared each and every answer, made notes, etc., everything. And the time when we got in, which was the the fourth iteration of IC since we started the company, the fourth, when we applied, we didn't prepare. We didn't make any notes because everything was in our head because we'd done so much of homework, we'd done so much of traction, done so much of product building that we didn't need to prepare because everything was in here. We were doing it every day. And at that point of time, our revenue was touching 100K monthly. So
MRR.
100K, yeah, MRR. So like $1,000 to $100,000. We didn't need preparation. We didn't need a lot of proof. We were building this. And surprisingly, YC has a track record of every of your interview. So they'd know when you start, the first time you applied, what were you building then? What were your answers? And in the fourth one, they could probably see the whole graph, right? We were like, they're trying something, they've probably reached there, and now like they're doing like $100,000. Probably the whole journey they've done it. And I'm sure there were less doubts for us then. Like, they proved the market, they've proven that they could do it, they've gotten the traction, and not a lot of companies in my batch were doing more than $10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 MRR. So we were like in the top five traction wise in our batch. So that's when we got into Y Combinator. So this was this October 2020. And
October of 2020. I'm trying to.
The batch started in December, January of 21. Like
Got
December
it.
2021. Yeah. That's when
Got
we
it.
did YC. Yeah.
But so you applied to YC 4 times.
Yeah.
The first 3 times you prepared extensively and had some slight incremental traction.
Yeah.
But the 4th time, your traction was through the roof, but your preparation for the actual interview and obsessing over, are we going to say the right things, was near zero.
Yeah. Because as a founder, when you've lived like 1.5 years trying to build something, you don't have to prepare a lot for an investor to come to you because you're like, all the numbers are here, everything's here. I'm not going to fumble on my numbers, all the market numbers. So that's the kind of confidence we had. And relax as well, because fun fact, earlier we thought our life depended on YC to build a business because it was so early. And we used to think if we didn't get into YC, probably we won't be able to build something. But YC rejected us, so we had no other option than to build something ourselves, make revenue so that we don't die. And but we still understood the value of YC. That has no comparison. It's priceless. The YC experience, so we thought we wanted it no matter the revenue, no matter how much traction YC is. YC, it's the god of startups. So that's when we thought we'd still apply. And the stress was really zero. We were very relaxed because we knew our market, we knew our understanding, we knew the kind of traction we brought.
Yeah, that is such a good insight. And for all the founders out there who think that is everything, you were going to build a successful business though, with or without YC, once you broke past that realization. And then the irony is that YC wanted to come along your side later on, but they weren't going to be the thing that pulls you ahead. Like there has to be something special happening before you got in.
Yep. It's all about the market and the people building in that market. And YC is super smart. They're like super smart folks, and they can gauge the market like this. And so that's why if you see a lot of investors would take an hour or two for the first call and then have multiple calls to build before building conviction. And YC would just look at your application, have 10 minutes of interview and be like, yeah, that's good. We are good. Because that's the kind of perspective that they come from, and that they really know the market. Like 10-minute interview, they can gauge the whole story.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. What do you think? You've mentioned some things, but if you had to distill it, what do you think was the biggest thing that convinced them to say yes the 4th time?
I think persistence. They would have seen our journey very clearly on there. If they had a chart or something or like a graph, they'd be able to see that. And second was, we were very clear about the market, the whole fluency of things, how we could communicate with them, what we are trying to build, how big is the market, what have we done till now, why do we think it's going to work, why do we think we are the people trying to solve it, and we will be able to solve it. The kind of fluency in the answers, when you're super confident and you've spent time, you're saying the right things at the right time and the right words. So that's what will help you crack YC. It's just how well you understand your market, your customers, and your own pitch.
Yeah, and it was so ingrained in you because it was what you were living
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
previous years.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's almost like you can't fake that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone applying to YC that is maybe less common?
It would be opposite to what my journey is. My journey has been that I gained some traction, and that was the proof of concept for us. But I think what I advise founders around me is apply to YC as soon as possible, because you might be sitting on gold mine and you might be just scratching the surface, and YC can help you explore this and mine it way faster and way deeper. So one of the batchmates in YC was Zepto. Zepto is like this crazy Indian story. Zepto was in my batch. Back then, they were not building the 10-minute story, 10-minute grocery delivery story in India, but they wanted YC. The whole trajectory changed. I think they're one of the fastest growing startups. I think they're going to list in the market the fastest from inception of a startup to going IPO. So Zepto is a crazy story. So I really push founders to go early, go fast, show your metal, show your worth, but go faster to YC than waiting to get traction. So a lot of people ask me, should we apply YC when there's traction? Or should we apply to YC when we have gotten something, when we have something? I think the whole process of applying to YC, that's that in itself is very helpful. The kind of questions they ask, kind of answers that you have to think, and having no jargon at all, having no helping demos and helping pitches and helping websites, nothing at all, and just pure writing the answers. That's what the clarity should be, right? A graph should not be able to explain something better than you can in your words, right? That's the kind of fluency. So that's what a YC application can bring, even if you're not getting selected, even if you're not going for the interview, the application itself helps. As soon as you start building something, go completely all in this, apply for YC.
That's great advice. And it's going to help be a forcing function
Yeah.
for you as a founder to make sure you're building in the right direction. And then, like you said, there's a chance that you get in, and that's going to help you either way. So once you got in, what did you do for the first 3 weeks?
First of all, helps you set up milestones and tasks that you want to achieve in the next few months. And post that, they ask you to set up office hours with partners and group partners and visiting partners. And you sit with them, you talk to them about what's troubling you, why do you need their help, where do you need their help, and how does it relate to the tasks and goals that you have set up as a company. So that was on a personal front. And then there is a front where they bring in top founders. Like the first session we had was founders of Airbnb would come and talk us through the whole journey. And the first session itself will pump you up so much because Airbnb journey is crazy. The kind of survival mentality that they had by trying to build something, the kind of bets and the kind of rejections that they'd gotten early on. I think that super pumps you in the first session of YC. You feel like you're here to build something, change the world, the kind the founders of Airbnb have. So you talk to founders like superhuman founder, like the male client. Then you talk to Dropbox founders. I think it incrementally gets better, and the starting note itself is so good that the whole momentum keeps up like for 3 months till the demo. So yeah, that's what the YC journey was.
That's so cool. Tell us the kind of milestones that they set.
Yeah, so these are very customized milestones. So let's say some companies in our batch were still like trying to build the product. The product wasn't there. They were trying to build the MVP. So the target would be like to talk to X number of customers and validate X number of features of what you're trying to build. For us, it was mostly the kind of customer segmentation that we wanted to do, the kind of partnerships that we wanted to have, and how much the revenue would scale up in the coming few weeks. So for us, it was mostly numbers and the partnerships to grow that number. So those were some milestones that we were. But it was all customized, all personalized, depending on what stage you were at and what sector and what industry you were in.
Got it. And then what was the biggest thing that you learned at YC that changed the trajectory? Because you said you started growing exponentially faster after your experience. Was there like a big insight? What was the biggest insight that you learned around that?
Yeah, I think the one approach that we were not following for us was positioning our product to a very specific niche audience. So we were being generic. We wanted to solve for enterprises. We wanted to solve for startups. We wanted to solve for small startups. We wanted to solve for banks, right? So the whole gamut of customers, the sectors or the sizes of our customers were too huge for us to spread ourselves thin. So what we understood with YC was that our focus is developer friendly startups. Now that could be an enterprise, that could be a small startup, but developer focused organizations which would want to integrate our systems within days and start using that within days. So we turned our whole proposition to a developer friendly product which gets integrated in less than 24 hours. Consider it as a low code, no code tool. So the whole proposition changed. And then the kind of customers that we got who wanted to get us faster. So faster integration meant faster revenue, faster realization of revenue. So that's what the whole projection changed. We would say that our product would really require less than a day to get integrated. So it's on you. If you are integrating or taking time, then that's mostly on the customer. So that kind of urgency, the kind of fast integration, the proposition, that is what helped us drive revenue faster.
Interesting. And so it was basically like you narrowed the beachhead of where you were focusing, and then you made it faster for them to get started.
Yeah. Beachhead would generally mean the market being small, like the target market for that particular era. For us, it wasn't. It was just a different set of companies or a different set of mentality. So we weren't looking to run after banks or enterprises because that would suck up like 6 to 9 months of our timeline, and that's very hard for a startup to survive. You don't want to run after enterprises who would take like 6 to 9 months to decide. And that's not the kind of timeline that a startup has. So that's when we decided this is like the meaty chunk, but we're not going after them because we want to scale faster, grow our revenue, and then we'll probably look at them. So we changed the whole perception. We changed the market sizing, the market focus, and the beachhead changed technically.
It was like, when did you realize you had your first real sign of traction?
When we got integrated in a product where we never thought we would get integrated. That was one of the industries we thought we could crack, but seeing a use case outside the compliance requirement, where compliance wasn't the need for the product, which was actually a business problem statement and a fraud prevention problem statement, that is when we realized, you know what, we were never looking at the space. We were only looking at companies which wanted KYC or automated KYC for regulatory purpose, but we were never looking at companies which should want it for a business problem statement. And that's when we realized it's working. When the API hits got 2x, 3x, and the revenue started going up, the kind of companies that we were able to get integrated with, likes of the first company that got integrated, that's when we realized this is working. And when we realized we had competition, so that was another moment of validation when we realized there were two people pitching to the same company for the similar kind of product. That is when we realized we were not the only one building it, which is sometimes taken so negatively by people. Like competition is taken so negatively. I always feel so happy that competition is there, which means that the problem statement is validated. Someone else trying to break their heads because of this particular problem statement, it just validates. Plus, if there's a bigger company trying to solve it, even better, because that's when you realize that the problem is much chunkier. There's a lot of piece to have had by one company. So I think that is when a couple of these factors started playing out, and that's when it's never a single point. It's never you wake up and you see this and you realize you found something worthwhile. It's just a couple of weeks, couple of months that sort of, and then one fine day you wake up and then you realize, like all in your passive thoughts, subconscious mind, and then it all clicks. You know what? This is working. We're getting customers at a regular frequency. They're using a product at a regular frequency. We have problems. We have customer complaints, which means that they are using the product daily and they're having problems, which means we're working. Things are working.
It means that
That's
they
when
care, and they'd be sad if it was gone.
it was gone, and they're sad if you're not working well. So either way, you just have to make sure that you're working well and their problem is solved. Yeah.
I love that. It's obviously a journey, but you're saying after a couple months of moving in the right direction, you took a step back. And what was there a particular customer conversation you had, or was it a particular moment when you were just like, wow, this is.
Yeah. So there was one enterprise customer, I don't want to name them. They were trying to stall us, not able to see the merit in the product for almost 8 months. And then suddenly remote functioning became the norm. in the world where things were supposed to be done remotely. Things were supposed to be looked via a screen, and you can't via a screen, and you can't talk to people face to face. You can't verify them face to face. And we got integrated there within 3 weeks. Everything from the finalization of the technical architecture to getting the approvals to getting certifications to going live with them, that was like 3 weeks to a month. And that was the first cloud-based infrastructure that was ever adopted by a bank so fast. There's an AWS case study on this as well, where they took our case and made it public, how fast were we in getting the customer onboarded. But that was funny because for 8 months we weren't able to. Then things outside your control, like we were talking, they happen, and that's when people realize the kind of product or the need of the product. Obviously, it was more satisfaction to us that we were able to get people onboarded on platforms which were at utmost need for them during those times. So helping to get them onboarded faster was another level of satisfaction, apart from the revenue coming in, of course.
Oh, I bet. That's really exciting. And the last question before you jump in what you're currently working on. I know you also have a full-time job, but would you say where were you when you found out that you got into Y Combinator?
I was at my home. The video call had just ended. Funny story. So the first 2 times we got rejected after the interview, we thought they get back like after days, 2 days, 3 days. So we waited for a week. Probably they want to call us now. There were people we made friends at our interview center with that gotten call or told for rejection. We thought it might be taking time for them to evaluate us. And then the rejection came like in a week. But this time we were like, oh, it takes days and it takes time for them to evaluate. We've seen it in the past, but we got a call in 2 hours, right? From our interview to getting accepted was like 2 hours. So I was at home and it was such a surreal feeling because this was unexpected. It was like, we were like, if we've gotten rejected so many times, I mean, it's okay if we don't get accepted this time as well. It's okay. Probably this is our startup journey. This is the destiny for us, but we'll continue building. So me and my co-founder, we were sitting pretty relaxed, not worrying about the outcome. But then when it came, it was just I couldn't think about anything because all the flashbacks of getting rejected and not being able to make it, even with YC and the kind of rejections we'd had, all of that felt that was worth it. Because if we'd not gotten rejection so early on in our journey, we wouldn't have seen in the right direction. I think that was one clear thing that struck. So it was all the learnings come in like hindsight, right? You can't look at them and think this is for my learning or this is something that I need to understand. But when we got in, we understood the reason why we were rejected for the last 2.5 years. That was very surreal. That was a lot of things coming to my head and spitting in the right places. A lot of sanity and a lot of wisdom coming in 1 minute.
That must have been amazing. And who called you?
It was our partner who interviewed us and was our partner in the cohort as well, Harsh Tagore.
Wow. What an amazing moment. And I love that. Tell me, and real quick, what was the reason that they rejected you the previous 3 times? Did they share at that point?
Yeah, first was the problem, the problem statement itself didn't seem worth or valid.
Got it.
Second was the traction wasn't so good, still about the market, still about the potential. So I think both of the times it was the potential of the market or proof of conviction for them. That wasn't enough. And fairly, I would have rejected myself. My interviews.
It wasn't because of you as a person, that's for sure. And it wasn't because of the effort and the traction and the application and the preparation. It was because of something bigger than you is what it sounds like.
Yeah. It's difficult for you to understand when you think you're too convinced for your idea. You're like, this is what I left my job for. This is what I've been struggling day and night for. And when others are not able to see it, you feel disappointed. You feel like, what is going on? Because I'm so convinced. But then when slowly time passes and you mold your problem statement, you mold your solutions, you go deep in the problems, you realize that your preparation earlier on was not enough. And you weren't there yet. You weren't cut out for such a program or such an accelerator. And when that happens, and once you get in, you realize, this is the perfect time to get in. Anything before this would have not made sense.
Tell us about what you're working on. You had 4 1,091 likes. Is that the most amount of likes you've ever gotten?
Yeah.
I-
Unfortunately, yes.
I was just like, unfortunately, yes, that's amazing. That would be a record for me. That is, you don't see that very much. And so tell me how you came up with the idea. And I know this is a weekend project for you right now, but for me, I'm like, this is how some of the best startups start.
I'm a big public market enthusiast. I think because I've built a business in the past, I think understanding businesses and betting on them and being a small stakeholder in them is like a great hobby to have, like a great understanding in investments in general. I think it's one of the best things that I've done in my life, investing in public market. Out of curiosity, I realized that I wasn't having enough information before investing in a company. And then I realized there are a lot of sources that you would go and check. So let's say if you wanted to see a chart for a company, you would go to a trading view. You wanted to see any fundamentals or anything, you would go to a screener. And then for news, you'd Google anything about that company. So almost already three platforms. And where you want to place the order, that's the fourth platform, that's the broker itself, right? So to study one company, to understand its fundamental, and then to place an order, I would have to go through four tabs and then piece it all together myself, right? Grab information everywhere else, understand it, and then take a call. That's when I realized we have smarter agents now, which can pull these information, pull the data from different sources and club it and act according to how you want them to. And that's when I came across MCP, right? I think MCP is like the thing to integrate anything in your world, in your environment, in your ecosystem to your agents and act faster,
So tell us
act
what
better,
NCP
act
is.
smarter.
For anyone who
Yeah,
doesn't know, do you mind just like explaining it super simply?
sure. So it's a protocol which sits on top of any LLM client. So an LLM client in this case would be Claude, and an MCP would be like a middleware, like a protocol, which can help an LLM client like Claude to talk to any of the resources. So the resources could be a code base or a database, or any of those things, which can communicate with an external ecosystem, and how they interact with Claude is through this middleware. So it's like an endpoint for Claude to interact with the outer ecosystem. So you could connect it. A lot of people have seen it connected it to the WhatsApp. A lot of people have connected to their databases to talk to. A lot of people have talked to a lot of different APIs that they can integrate. So I use Linear instead of Jira. So Linear is like for my task management. So there's a Linear MCP. So what I do is instead of going to Linear, clicking on new and creating a task and then assigning it, I just simply write it down on Claude and saying that this is the task that I want to create and its priority is high, and add to this project and assign it to this person, and write these comments and attach these files, and it would do all of that using that MCP middleware talking to Linear.
Got it. And that's what you're outlining here. But essentially, it's like you're letting an LLM go into an area that it would not otherwise be able to go because you've given it authorization to the MCP.
Yeah.
But then that means that it's going to do it for you. So
Yeah.
got it. And then this, because I know you launched 6 days ago, you actually put it together.
Yeah. So the first time I did it was purely to build it for myself on a local server. And then I posted on LinkedIn. I posted it on LinkedIn, and that's where the traction that you see, the 500,000 impressions and 4,000 likes. People from all backgrounds, developer, non-developer, enterprises, companies, a lot of people messaged me. These are 200 comments on the post, and there are 200 DMs that I had. And then there were mails, and then people around me talking and asking for it, right? I would call someone and talk to them for something else. And they'd be like, skip that. You built something, right? How do we get access to that? So that's the kind of traction that I had. And I realized that to enable all of them to use my local setup, that would be very difficult for them because they were non-developers as well. So that's when I realized I need to build a remote MCP where you could integrate the MCP without actually integrating the code itself. So that's when I built AI Stock Analyzer, which was a remote MCP. This took time because obviously I was trying to collaborate with the broker, but that didn't turn out to, fruition. So I decided to launch it separately as AI Stock Analyzer. Launched that, sent it to waitlist. Today I have like close to 200 signups in these many days where after the launch, that's where the traction is at right now.
Thanks for watching to the end. I hope you got some good insights. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or want to potentially connect with the founder. This is way more than a podcast. My name's Adam O'Donnell. This is the Founder Initiative, and it's all about helping founders hit product market fit, get funded, and stay up to date. Boom.